White House political commentator for our partners at The Hill. It says commentator. I thought you were a columnist.
Yeah, either
Niall
way.
Stanage, you do both.
I do
It's good to see you, my friend. Thank you. You and I have differing views on what's happening and how to deal with what's happening in Gaza. Let's just stick at the White House for a second. How big of a problem for the White House is the fact that this is not going to be wrapped up before November?
I honestly think it's election losing, or at least potentially so. You're right that you and I have very different perspectives on this, but the problem is, as a political matter, this is catastrophic for the president, who is already experiencing difficulties in enthusiasm among key Democratic blocs. Young voters, black voters, progressive voters, all of those blocs are the same blocs outraged about Israel's behavior in Gaza.
And you have done, I think, a superb job, yeoman's work, of pressing the White House on this issue from, I would say, the left flank, because the White House is trying to drive down the middle of the road of this. Is the anger from the left starting to scare? What's the right adjective for what it's doing to the White House? I
think the White House does actually appreciate the scale of the political danger that they're in, and they're aware of the anger on the left. The difficulty is they haven't done very much, practically speaking, to assuage that anger. They paused one arms shipment, but then they were worried about their right flank, so they said, well, it's only one arms shipment. We're continuing with all the other arms. Israel will have everything to defend itself. I do get that they're trying to thread a needle. I just don't think they've done so very successfully.
Well, look, on issues of moral clarity, that I think the left demands a certain amount of moral clarity, the pro-Israel wing demands one. Threading a needle doesn't work, right? Young voters overwhelmingly disapprove, Republicans overwhelmingly disapprove, independents overwhelmingly disapprove. It's difficult to get all of those sides to agree that you are doing a really awful job. I'm wondering about the messaging, because there was a Israeli airstrike in Rafah. We will put up a map. This is the IDF's map of where the strike happened. There were 2 Hamas terrorists that they were going after and eliminated. And about 600 feet away, 200 meters, there was a UN compound of tents. The tents went up in flames, and a number of people died, 45 civilians. There is now a lot of questions as to whether or not Hamas was using the tents as munition storage and using the UN to hide them.
Or whether other flammable materials like cooking oils and innocent materials went up.
All true and reasonable. That said, you saw what happened after the hospital got hit, allegedly by the Israelis. Turns out it was Islamic Jihad's own rockets hitting its own hospital. Is there a willingness to go all in on things that blame Israel, and when the Palestinians are to blame for things, then no one seems that interested?
No, here's where I think our differences reassert themselves here. I think there are mirror images of each other. Yes, people who are very pro-Palestinian have a tendency to automatically blame Israel. I also think there is an enormous tendency, not only among pro-Israel people, but among many swathes of the media, to let Israel off the hook for things that it has done by its own admission. Israel, in the first week of this conflict, dropped 6,000 bombs. They said they dropped 6,000 bombs on Gaza. Gaza is about the same size as the city of Atlanta. 6,000 bombs in that area are obviously going to cause vast civilian deaths.
No, there's no question that it's going to cause civilian deaths. That is a fact of war, is that civilians die. This would be my last question, though. For people who want to see much stronger, and we're seeing this across the American left, a much stronger response to Israel, handcuffs put on Israel.
Restraint.
Would there not be a much higher moral ground to come from if they showed equal outrage to what Hamas was doing to its own people?
I don't really accept the premise of the question. The answer in simple terms is yes, but I don't think that it is quite right to say that well, it's not at all right to say they excuse Hamas. You might find that if you spot 1 or 2 protesters, the vast majority of people protesting in this country about Israel's conduct of the war are quite understandably outraged by the amount of civilian death and destruction it has caused.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.